Get that disgusting mutt away from our table! Victoria Blackwell screamed, her designer heel crashing into Emma Carter's ribs. The young waitress was curled on the diner floor, her arms wrapped around her trembling German shepherd, taking every blow to protect him. "Filthy animal! Filthy girl!" Preston Blackwell laughed, his phone recording every second. "This is going viral, babe. The internet loves watching trash get what it deserves." Emma didn't cry out. She just held Buddy tighter, her body absorbing the pain. But neither Victoria nor Preston noticed the man in the corner booth. The man with the steady hands and the cold, watchful eyes. The man who had spent 15 years hunting predators in places they couldn't imagine. And he had just found his next target. Before we continue, tell me where you're watching from. Drop your city in the comments below. And if this story moves you, hit subscribe and stay until the end. Trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. Now let's get into it. Emma Carter's hands were shaking as she balanced 3 plates on her left arm and carried 2 more in her right. Her feet ached from standing for 10 hours straight, but she kept moving. She always kept moving. "Order up for table 7. Rosie called from the kitchen window. "Got it," Emma shouted back, weaving between the crowded tables with practiced ease. Rosie's diner wasn't fancy. The vinyl booths were cracked in places the jukebox in the corner hadn't worked since 1987, and the coffee was the kind that put hair on your chest. But it was honest. It was home. And for Emma, it was survival. She delivered the plates to table 7, a family of 4 from out of town, their minivan packed with luggage for a cross-country trip. The father smiled at her, the kind of tired but grateful smile that said, "We've been driving all day, and this food looks like heaven." "Thank you, sweetheart," the mother said. "You're welcome, ma'am. Let me know if you need anything else." Emma turned to head back to the counter when she felt something bump against her leg. She looked down and smiled. Buddy. The German shepherd had gotten out of the back room again. He sat at her feet, tail wagging slowly, his intelligent brown eyes looking up at her with pure adoration. "Buddy, you're supposed to stay in back," Emma whispered, kneeling down to scratch behind his ears. "You know the rules." Buddy licked her hand, completely unrepentant. "Emma." She looked up. Rosie was standing in the kitchen doorway, her hands on her hips, but there was no real anger in her eyes. I know. I'll put him back." "You spoil that dog. He's the only one who never complains about my cooking." Rosie laughed, a warm sound that filled the diner. "Get back to work, girl. Table 12 just got seated." Emma stood up, giving Buddy one last pat. "Go on, boy. I'll bring you something special after my shift." Buddy seemed to understand. He trotted back toward the storage room, pausing once to look back at her before disappearing through the swinging door. Emma grabbed her notepad and headed toward table 12. That's when she saw them. A man and a woman, both dressed like they'd stepped out of a magazine. The woman wore a cream-colored dress that probably cost more than Emma made in 6 months. Her blonde hair was perfect, her makeup flawless, her expression one of barely concealed disgust as she looked around the diner. The man was tall, handsome in a generic sort of way, with a watch that gleamed gold under the fluorescent lights. He was already on his phone, not looking at the menu, not looking at his wife, not looking at anything except his own reflection in the screen. Emma took a breath and approached. "Good afternoon. Welcome to Rosie's Diner. My name is Emma, and I'll be taking care of you today. Can I start you off with something to drink?" The woman didn't look at her. "Is this the best table you have?" Emma blinked. "I'm sorry. I asked if this is the best table you have, because it's right next to the door and I can feel a draft and that booth over there has a stain on the seat." "I apologize, ma'am. We're pretty full right now, but I can see if another table opens up." "Preston?" The woman turned to her husband. "This is unacceptable." The man finally looked up from his phone. His eyes traveled over Emma slowly, dismissively, like she was furniture. "Just bring us water. Bottled, not tap, and make sure the glasses are clean. The last place we stopped, I could see fingerprints." "Of course, sir. I'll be right back." Emma walked to the counter, her face carefully neutral. She'd dealt with difficult customers before. This was nothing new. "Rich folks?" Rosie asked, watching from behind the register. "Very. They always find something wrong. Just smile and get through it." "That's the plan." Emma filled 2 glasses with bottled water, checked them 3 times for spots, and carried them back to table 12. The woman was applying lipstick. The man was still on his phone. "Your water," Emma said, placing the glasses down carefully. "Finally," the woman muttered. "We've been waiting forever." It had been less than 2 minutes, but Emma didn't correct her. "Are you ready to order, or do you need a few more minutes?" "What do you recommend?" the man asked, not looking up. "Our burgers are excellent, made fresh daily, and the apple pie is homemade." The woman made a face. "Burgers? Do I look like I eat burgers? We also have a grilled chicken salad. Is it organic?" I'm not sure, ma'am. I can ask." "Never mind. I'll just have the salad, no dressing, no croutons, no cheese, and if there's even a trace of gluten, I'll know." "Yes, ma'am. And for you, sir?" "Steak, medium rare. If it's overcooked, I'm sending it back." "Of course. Anything else?" "That's all, for now." Emma wrote down the order and headed back to the kitchen. Her hands were steadier now, her expression still calm, but something tight had settled in her chest. She'd been doing this job for 3 years. 3 years of smiling at people who looked through her, of serving people who treated her like she was invisible, of working doubles and triples to pay for her grandmother's medication. It was worth it. Martha was worth it. But some days were harder than others. "Table 12 wants a steak medium rare and a grilled chicken salad, no dressing, no croutons, no cheese," Emma told Rosie. "The fancy couple?" "Yeah." Rosie shook her head. "I'll make sure it's perfect. Don't let them get to you, honey." "I won't." But as Emma turned back to the dining room, she felt that familiar weight pressing down on her shoulders. The weight of exhaustion, of worry, of never having quite enough. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out and saw a text from the pharmacy. "Martha Carter's prescription is ready. Balance due, $347.82. Emma stared at the number. She had $162 in her checking account. Payday wasn't until Friday. She'd have to ask for an advance. Again. "Hey, Emma." She looked up. Jenny, the other waitress on shift, was gesturing toward the door. "Someone just came in. Corner booth." Emma pocketed her phone and grabbed a menu. "I've got it." The man in the corner booth was unlike anyone else in the diner. Not because of how he dressed, which was simple jeans, a gray t-shirt, boots that had seen better days. Not because of his face, which was weathered and lined, the kind of face that had spent years squinting into distant suns. It was his eyes. They were hazel sharp and utterly still. The kind of eyes that didn't miss anything. The kind of eyes that had seen things most people only read about in books. He was maybe mid-30s, with short brown hair, and a posture that was simultaneously relaxed and alert, like a coiled spring pretending to be at rest. "Good afternoon," Emma said, approaching with her notepad. "Welcome to Rosie's Diner. Can I get you something to drink?" The man looked up at her. For a moment, his eyes seemed to take her measure, and Emma had the strange feeling of being truly seen for the first time all day. "Coffee," he said. His voice was quiet, steady. "Black." "Coming right up. Do you need a menu?" "Just coffee for now, maybe food later." "Take your time." She brought him his coffee and noticed he said thank you. Not dismissively, not absently, but actually looking at her when he said it. "You're welcome," she said, surprised by how much that small courtesy meant to her. She went back to her other tables, but something made her glance back at the corner booth. The man was watching the diner, his coffee untouched, his attention moving slowly from table to table. When his eyes reached table 12, they stopped and stayed. "Order up table 12. Emma grabbed the plates and headed over. The woman was on her phone now, complaining loudly to someone about the absolute state of this place. The man was texting, his fingers flying across the screen. "Your steak, sir. And your salad, ma'am." The woman didn't even look up. She just waved a dismissive hand, still talking into her phone. Yes, I know it's awful, but we had no choice. The car needed gas, and this was the only place for miles. Yes, I'll survive. Barely. Emma set down the plates and stepped back. That's when the storage room door swung open. Buddy trotted out, his nose twitching. He must have smelled the steak. He padded across the diner, his tail wagging, heading straight for table 12. Emma's heart stopped. Buddy, no! But she was too late. The German Shepherd approached the table, his nose lifting toward the steak, his tail wagging in hopeful anticipation. The woman looked down and screamed, "Oh my God, a dog! There's a dog!" She leaped up from her seat, her phone clattering to the floor, her face twisted in horror and rage. "Get it away! Get it away from me!" "Ma'am, I'm so sorry." Emma rushed forward, grabbing Buddy's collar, trying to pull him back. "I'm so sorry he got out of the back room. He didn't mean any harm." "Didn't mean any harm." The woman's voice rose to a shriek. "That beast tried to attack me." "He didn't attack you, ma'am. He just—" "Preston. Preston, do something." The man stood up slowly, pocketing his phone. His face had gone red, his jaw tight with anger. "Is this how you run a business?" He demanded, his voice loud enough to make every head in the diner turn. "Letting animals roam around where people are eating." "Sir, I apologize. Apologize. My wife could have been killed." "The dog didn't do anything," Emma said, her voice cracking. "He's friendly. He would never hurt anyone." "Friendly?" The woman stepped forward, her designer heel clicking against the floor. "That thing is a menace. It should be put down." Buddy whimpered, pressing against Emma's legs. He could sense the hostility, the danger. "Please," Emma said, her arms wrapping around Buddy protectively. "Please, he's just a dog. He didn't mean to scare you." "Scare me, scare me!" The woman's face contorted with fury. "You filthy little waitress, defending that disgusting animal." "Victoria!" The man put a hand on his wife's arm. "Calm down." "Don't tell me to calm down, Preston. This is outrageous. We should sue this entire establishment." Emma's eyes were burning with tears she refused to let fall. "I'll take him back. Please, just let me take him back." She turned to lead Buddy away. And that's when Victoria's heel connected with her ribs. The kick was vicious, unexpected. Emma gasped, stumbling forward, but she didn't let go of Buddy. "Get that mutt out of my sight." Another kick, this one to her thigh. Emma fell to her knees, curling her body around Buddy, shielding him. "You're hurting her!" someone shouted from across the diner. But Victoria didn't stop. "Filthy! Animal! Filthy! Girl!" Each word punctuated by another kick. Emma felt the pain blooming across her body, felt the tears finally spilling down her cheeks. But she didn't move. She didn't let go. She just held Buddy tighter, absorbing every blow, protecting him with everything she had. "Preston, are you getting this?" Victoria laughed, her voice high and manic. "Tell me you're getting this." "Every second, babe." Preston was recording on his phone, a smirk on his face. "This is gold. The internet's going to love this." "Stop it." Rosie came rushing out of the kitchen, her face white with shock. "What are you doing? Stop." "Stay out of this, old woman," Preston snapped. "Your employee assaulted my wife." "She didn't assault anyone. You're the ones." "Do you know who I am?" Preston's voice went cold, dangerous. "My father is Senator Harold Blackwell. One phone call and this dump is shut down. One phone call and every health inspector in the state is crawling through your kitchen. One phone call and you never work again." Rosie froze. The diner went silent. On the floor, Emma was still curled around Buddy, her body shaking with pain and fear. And in the corner booth, the man with the hazel eyes slowly set down his coffee cup. He stood up. His movement was unhurried, almost casual. But there was something in the way he crossed the room that made people step back clear. A path, hold their breath. He stopped in front of table 12. Preston looked up at him, annoyance flickering across his face. "Who the hell are you?" The man didn't answer immediately. He looked down at Emma at the way she was still holding Buddy at the bruises already forming on her arms. Then he looked at Preston. "Let me ask you something," the man said. His voice was quiet, conversational. "Do you know what a predator looks like?" Preston blinked. "What? A predator. Someone who hurts people because they can, because they think there's no one to stop them." The man tilted his head slightly. "I've spent 15 years hunting predators. In places you've never heard of, doing things you couldn't imagine." Victoria stepped back, her bravado faltering. "Preston?" "I've seen the worst humanity has to offer," the man continued. "Warlords who burned villages for fun, traffickers who sold children like cattle, terrorists who strapped bombs to teenagers." His eyes locked onto Preston's. "But you know what? At least they had conviction. They believed in something even if it was evil. You're just bored. You hurt people because it makes you feel powerful, because you've never faced someone who could hurt you back." Preston's face had gone pale. "You can't talk to me like that. Do you know who my father—" "I don't care about your father." The words fell like stones. "I don't care about your money, your connections, your threats. I care about that girl on the floor. I care about that dog. And I care about the fact that you recorded yourself assaulting them." Preston's hand moved toward his phone. The man's hand moved faster. In one fluid motion, he caught Preston's wrist twisted, and the phone clattered to the ground. "Don't," the man said softly. "Let go of me. I'll have you arrested." "For what?" "Assault battery. You'll what?" The man's grip tightened just enough to make Preston wince. "You'll call the police, good. I hope you do. Because then they can see the video you took. The one where you and your wife kicked a defenseless woman who was protecting her dog." Victoria was backing toward the door. "Preston, let's just go. We're not going anywhere." Preston tried to pull free and failed. "This is assault. I have witnesses." The man looked around the diner. At the families who had watched in horror. At Rosie still standing frozen by the kitchen door. At Jenny, who had her own phone out recording everything. "Witnesses," he said. "Yes, I imagine there are plenty of those." He released Preston's wrist. Preston stumbled back, rubbing his arm, his face twisted with humiliation and rage. "This isn't over," he spat. "You have no idea who you're dealing with." The man smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "I know exactly who I'm dealing with. The question is, do you know who you're dealing with?" He reached down and offered his hand to Emma. She looked up at him through tear-blurred eyes. Her body ached. Her heart was pounding, but something in his steady gaze made her reach up and take his hand. He helped her to her feet, gentle, despite the obvious strength in his grip. "Are you okay?" he asked quietly. Emma nodded, not trusting her voice. Buddy pressed against her legs, whimpering softly. "He's beautiful," the man said, looking at the dog. "German Shepherd." Yes. "I have one too. His name's Titan." He glanced toward the door, and Emma noticed for the first time that there was a truck parked outside with a dog visible in the passenger seat. "They're loyal to the end. Worth protecting." "You can't just—" Preston started. "Leave." The word was soft, but carried the weight of a command. Preston's mouth opened and closed. Victoria grabbed his arm, pulling him toward the door. "Come on, let's go. This isn't worth it." "My phone. Leave it." They stumbled out the door, Victoria's heels clicking frantically against the parking lot pavement. Moments later, an engine roared to life, and a white Porsche peeled out onto the highway, disappearing in a cloud of dust. The diner was silent. Then Rosie rushed forward, wrapping her arms around Emma. Oh, honey, are you okay?" Emma finally let herself cry. The tears came in great heaving sobs, all the fear and pain and exhaustion pouring out of her. "I'm sorry," she gasped. "I'm so sorry Buddy got out. I didn't mean—" "Don't you dare apologize." Rosie's voice was fierce. "Don't you dare. You didn't do anything wrong." "But they said they'd shut down the diner." "Let them try." Rosie pulled back, wiping Emma's tears with her apron. Let them try. I've been running this place for 30 years. I'm not scared of some spoiled rich kids. The man in the gray t-shirt picked up Preston's phone from where it had fallen. They recorded everything, he said. Including the assault, including their threats. He looked at Rosie. That's evidence. If they try anything, this protects you. Rosie stared at him. Who are you? Just someone passing through. He handed her the phone. Keep this somewhere safe. Make copies. Send it to yourself, to Emma, to anyone you trust. Why are you helping us? The man looked at Emma, at Buddy, at the bruises already darkening on her arms. Because someone should. He turned to leave. Wait, Emma said, her voice still shaky. I don't even know your name. He paused at the door. Jackson, he said. Jackson Cole. Thank you, Jackson. For everything. He nodded once, a small acknowledgement. Take care of yourself, Emma. And take care of that dog. He's worth more than both of those people combined. He walked out. Through the window, Emma watched him climb into his battered pickup truck. A German shepherd in the passenger seat perked up at his arrival, tail wagging. The truck rumbled to life and pulled slowly out of the parking lot. But it didn't head toward the highway. It turned into the parking lot of the motel across the street. And Emma knew somehow that this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The bruises on Emma's ribs throbbed with every breath she took, but she refused to go home early. Rosie had tried to send her, had practically begged her, but Emma needed the hours. The pharmacy bill wasn't going to pay itself. At least let me put some ice on that, Rosie said, watching Emma wince as she reached for a stack of plates. I'm fine. You're not fine. You're hurt. I've been hurt before. Emma forced a smile. This isn't the worst thing that's ever happened to me. Rosie's eyes softened with something that looked like heartbreak. That doesn't make it okay, honey. I know, but standing still won't pay for Grandma's medicine. The dinner rush came and went. Emma moved slower than usual, favoring her left side, but she kept working. She took orders, delivered food, smiled at customers who looked at her with concern. Word had spread fast through Willow Creek. By 7 o'clock, half the town seemed to know what had happened. Heard some rich folks gave you trouble, old Mr. Patterson said when Emma brought him his usual coffee and pie. You okay? I'm okay, Mr. Patterson. Thank you for asking. You need anything, you let me know. I may be 73, but I can still swing a wrench. Emma laughed, the first genuine laugh she'd managed all day. I appreciate that. At 8 o'clock, the bell above the door chimed. Emma looked up, her heart stuttering in her chest. It was Jackson Cole. He walked in with the same unhurried stride, his German shepherd padding beside him. The dog was magnificent, larger than Buddy, with a thick black and tan coat and eyes that seemed to assess everything they saw. Is it okay if he comes in? Jackson asked, nodding toward the dog. He's well trained, won't cause any trouble. Rosie looked at Emma, then back at Jackson. After today, that dog can have his own booth. Jackson's lips twitched in what might have been a smile. Corner booth work. Anywhere you want, hon. He settled into the same booth as before, the dog lying at his feet with practiced ease. Emma grabbed her notepad, suddenly nervous in a way she couldn't explain. Hi, she said, approaching the table. Coffee again. Please, and whatever you recommend for dinner. I trust your judgment. Emma blinked. You don't want to see a menu. I've learned that locals always know best, especially the ones who work the kitchen. The meatloaf is good tonight. Rosie's been cooking it for 30 years. Meatloaf it is. Emma wrote down the order, acutely aware of his eyes on her. Not in a creepy way, but in a way that suggested he was cataloging everything, filing it away for later. How are you feeling? He asked. I'm fine. That's what you said before. It wasn't true then either. Emma's hand paused on her notepad. Does it matter? Yes. The simple answer caught her off guard. Why? Jackson was quiet for a moment. Because people who get hurt deserve to be asked, even if they say they're fine. Emma felt her throat tighten. She blinked rapidly, refusing to cry again. "I'll get your coffee," she managed. She hurried to the counter, her hands shaking as she poured. Rosie appeared beside her. "That's the man from earlier, isn't it? The one who helped you?" "Yeah. He's staying at the motel across the street. I called Margie, she runs the place. Says he paid cash for a week." "A week?" That's what she said. Rosie glanced toward the corner booth. Interesting timing, don't you think? Emma didn't know what to think. She just knew that for the first time since the attack, she felt something other than afraid. She felt protected. At 9:30, the diner was nearly empty. Emma was wiping down tables when her phone buzzed. She pulled it out and felt her blood run cold. A text from an unknown number. "You think it's over. It's just beginning. Senator Blackwell sends his regards." Her hands were trembling as she read it again and again. "Emma." She looked up. Jackson was standing beside her, his expression sharp with concern. "What's wrong?" She showed him the phone without a word. Jackson read the message, his jaw tightening. "When did this come?" "Just now." "Have you gotten any other messages? Calls?" "No, nothing." Jackson handed the phone back. "Keep it. Screenshot everything. Don't delete anything." "What does it mean Senator Blackwell sends his regards?" "It means they're not letting this go." Jackson's voice was calm, but there was an edge beneath it. "The couple from earlier, their last name was Blackwell. Preston Blackwell. I heard him say his father was a senator." "Harold Blackwell. State senator, but he's got connections that go a lot higher. Money, power, influence. The whole package." Emma felt sick. "So they're going to come after me because their son kicked me and I happen to have a witness. They're going to try. What am I supposed to do?" Jackson met her eyes. "For now, go home, lock your doors, keep your phone charged, and keep that dog close. Buddy, dogs know things. They sense danger before we do. Trust him." Emma looked at Buddy, who had emerged from the back room and was sitting at her feet. His ears perked up like he understood every word. "I can't afford trouble," she said quietly. "I can barely afford my grandmother's medication. If I lose this job, if they shut down the diner, they won't. You don't know that." "No," Jackson admitted. "But I know people like them. They're bullies. They push until someone pushes back. The key is pushing back harder than they expect. I'm not a fighter. You curled up on that floor and took every hit to protect your dog. That's fighting." Jackson's voice softened. "You're stronger than you think, Emma. Don't let them convince you otherwise." Emma closed at 10. Rosie offered to walk her to her car, but Emma shook her head. "I'm okay. I'm parked right out front." "You sure?" "I'm sure. Go home, Rosie. Get some rest." Rosie hugged her tight, careful of her bruised ribs. "Call me if you need anything. Anything at all." "I will." Emma walked out into the parking lot, Buddy trotting beside her. Her old Honda Civic sat under the single working streetlight, its paint faded, and its bumper held on with duct tape. She was halfway to the car when she heard the engines. Two vehicles pulled into the lot, blocking the exit. A black SUV and a red pickup truck. Their headlights blazed, blinding her. Doors opened. Men stepped out. 4 of them. Big, broad-shouldered, dressed in dark clothes. Emma's heart stopped. "Emma Carter," one of them called out. She didn't answer. Her hand found Buddy's collar, gripping tight. "We just want to talk," another one said, stepping closer. "Mr. Blackwell sent us. He thinks there's been a misunderstanding. Stay away from me." Now that's not very friendly. The man was close enough now that she could see his face. Square jaw, crooked nose, eyes that held no warmth. "Mr. Blackwell is a reasonable man. He just wants to make sure you understand how things work around here." "I don't want any trouble." "Then this should be easy." The man smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You have a video. A video that belongs to Mr. Blackwell's son. We're here to collect it. I don't have any video. Don't lie to us, sweetheart. We know the guy gave you the phone. Just hand it over and we'll be on our way. I don't have it. The diner owner has it. The man's smile faded. Then you're going to get it for us. The diner's closed. Then open it. Emma shook her head, her whole body trembling. I can't. I don't have keys to the safe. The man sighed like she was being difficult. See, this is what I was afraid of. You're not cooperating. He turned to the others. Boys, I think we need to teach Miss Carter a lesson about cooperation. They started forward. Buddy growled low and dangerous, his body tensing. That dog bites me. I'll put a bullet in it, one of the men said. Please, Emma whispered. Please just leave us alone. Should have thought about that before you embarrassed the Blackwell family. The first man reached for her arm, and then he was on the ground. It happened so fast, Emma barely saw it. One moment the man was reaching for her, the next he was flat on his back, gasping for breath, Jackson Cole standing over him. Touch her again, Jackson said quietly, and I break something that doesn't heal. The other three men froze. Who the hell are you? One of them demanded. Jackson didn't answer. He just stood there relaxed but ready, his eyes moving from man to man with the calm assessment of someone who had done this many, many times before. There's 4 of us. The man on the ground wheezed, struggling to sit up. And one of you. You're right, Jackson said. It's not fair. You should probably call for backup. The man's face twisted with rage. He lunged upward, swinging wildly. Jackson sidestepped, caught his arm twisted. There was a sickening pop, and the man screamed. I warned you, Jackson said. The other 3 charged. What happened next was less a fight than a demonstration. Jackson moved through them like water through stones, every motion precise and economical. A strike to the throat, a kick to the knee, an elbow to the temple. In less than 10 seconds, all 4 men were on the ground, groaning, defeated. Jackson wasn't even breathing hard. Get up, he told them. Get in your vehicles, drive away, and tell your boss that if he sends anyone else, I won't be as gentle. One of the men spat blood onto the pavement. You have no idea who you're messing with. I know exactly who I'm messing with. The question is whether he knows who he's messing with. Jackson pulled out his phone and snapped a photo of each man's face. I'm sending these to some friends, FBI friends. The kind who take a special interest in witness intimidation. The men exchanged glances. This isn't over, one of them said. No. Jackson agreed. It isn't. But the next chapter is going to be very different from what your boss expects. They limped back to their vehicles, engines roared, and they were gone. Emma stood frozen, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. Are you okay? Jackson asked. I don't... Her knees buckled. Jackson caught her before she hit the ground. Easy, I've got you. You're safe. They were going to hurt me. They were going to try. Emma looked up at him, her eyes wide with shock and gratitude and fear. Why are you doing this? Why are you helping me? Jackson was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was different, softer, older. 15 years ago, I was in a village in Afghanistan. Small place, middle of nowhere. The local warlord had been terrorizing the people there for years, taking their food, taking their daughters, killing anyone who resisted. He helped Emma to her feet, steadying her. My team was sent in to eliminate him. Standard operation, in and out. But when we got there, we found something we didn't expect. A woman, young, maybe your age. She was standing in front of a group of children, shielding them from the warlord's men. They were going to kill her, kill all of them. His jaw tightened. She had nothing, no weapons, no training, no backup. Just her body between those kids and the bullets. And she didn't move. She didn't run. She just stood there ready to die. Emma's breath caught. We saved them. Took out the warlord, evacuated the village. But that woman, I never forgot her. I never forgot what real courage looks like. He looked at Emma. Today in that diner, you did the same thing. You put yourself between danger and something you loved. You didn't have to. You could have let them hurt the dog, saved yourself. But you didn't. His voice hardened. People like that don't deserve to be hurt. They deserve to be protected, and I have the skills to protect them. Emma wiped her eyes. So you're staying because of me. I'm staying because this isn't right, and because men like Harold Blackwell need to learn that they can't buy their way out of everything. What if they hurt you? Jackson smiled. It was a real smile, the first she'd seen from him. They can try. He walked her to her car, Buddy jumping into the back seat. Titan watched from the pickup truck, his tail wagging slowly. Go home, Jackson said. Lock your doors. I'll be nearby. How nearby? Close enough. Emma started the engine, then paused. Jackson. Yeah. Thank you. For everything. He nodded once, that same small acknowledgement from before. Get some rest, Emma. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. She drove home, checking her rearview mirror every few seconds. The roads were empty, the night quiet. But she couldn't shake the feeling that somewhere in the darkness, eyes were watching. Her grandmother was asleep when she got home, her breathing steady and peaceful. Emma checked on her, smoothing the blanket, pressing a kiss to her forehead. I love you, Grandma, she whispered. She went to her own room, Buddy curling up at the foot of her bed. She checked her phone one more time. Another message. Same unknown number. Last chance. Hand over the video or watch everything you love burn. Emma stared at the screen, her hands trembling. Then she did something she didn't expect. She screenshotted the message and forwarded it to Jackson's number, which he'd written on a napkin before she left. 30 seconds later, her phone buzzed. I saw them. They're parked down the street. Don't worry. I'm watching them too. Emma let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. She wasn't alone. For the first time in years, she wasn't alone. But as she closed her eyes trying to sleep, she couldn't help wondering how far the Blackwells would go, how much they would risk to protect their precious reputation, and whether Jackson Cole, as skilled as he was, could really stand against the power of a senator who had spent decades learning how to destroy people who got in his way. Outside her window in the darkness, 2 sets of headlights sat watching. One belonged to the Blackwell's men, the other belonged to Jackson, and somewhere in between, a battle was beginning that would change Willow Creek forever. The phone on Emma's nightstand buzzed one more time. She picked it up, expecting another threat. Instead, it was Jackson. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we fight back. Emma read the message 3 times. Then, for the first time since the attack, she smiled. They wanted a war. They were going to get one. Emma woke to the sound of breaking glass. She bolted upright, her heart slamming against her ribs. Buddy was already at the bedroom door, growling low and dangerous, his hackles raised. Grandma, Emma whispered. She grabbed the baseball bat she kept beside her bed and crept toward the hallway. The sound had come from the front of the house, the living room. Emma! Her grandmother's voice, thin and frightened, came from the bedroom down the hall. Stay in your room, Grandma. Lock the door. What's happening? Just lock the door. Emma heard the click of the lock, then moved toward the living room, Buddy pressed against her leg. The front window was shattered. Glass littered the floor, glinting in the moonlight. And in the middle of it all, a brick with a note tied around it. Emma's hands shook as she picked it up and unwrapped the paper. Last warning. Hand over the video or your grandmother burns with the house. Her phone was already in her hand, dialing Jackson's number. He answered on the first ring. I heard it. I'm coming in. 30 seconds later, there was a knock at the back door. Emma let Jackson in, Titan padding silently beside him. Are you hurt? Jackson asked. No. They threw a brick through the window. He took the note from her trembling hands, read it, and his jaw tightened. "Where's your grandmother?" "In her room. I told her to lock the door." "Good." Jackson moved to the shattered window, staying low, scanning the street outside. "They're escalating, faster than I expected." "What do we do?" "First, we secure this house. Then we go on offense." "Offense against a senator." Jackson turned to look at her. "Emma, I've taken down warlords who had armies. A corrupt politician with a spoiled son doesn't scare me." "It scares me." "I know." His voice softened. "That's why I'm here." He pulled out his phone and made a call. Emma heard him speaking in low, clipped tones, using words she didn't understand. Military jargon, maybe. When he hung up, his expression was grimmer than before. "What is it?" "I called an old friend, Mike Davis, FBI. He's been tracking the Blackwell family for 3 years. FBI, why? Because Harold Blackwell isn't just a senator. He's connected to some very bad people. Money laundering, bribery, witness tampering. Mike's been building a case, but he could never get enough evidence." Emma's head was spinning. "And you think this, what we have, could help? The video of Preston and Victoria assaulting you. That's assault on camera. The threatening texts, that's witness intimidation. The brick through your window, that's criminal threatening." Jackson's eyes met hers. By themselves, they're misdemeanors, but combined with what Mike already has, they could be the final pieces. "So we're bait." "No, we're witnesses. There's a difference." Emma wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe that this nightmare had a purpose, that the pain she'd endured could mean something. But right now, with glass on her floor and a death threat in her hand, all she felt was afraid. "Hey!" Jackson's hand touched her shoulder, gentle but steady. "I know you're scared. You have every right to be. But I promise you, Emma. I promise you on everything I am. I will not let them hurt you. Or your grandmother. Or that dog." Emma looked up at him at the certainty in his eyes. "Why?" she whispered. "Why do you care so much about strangers?" Jackson was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough. "Because once a long time ago, I was the one who needed help, and someone was there for me. A stranger. Someone who had no reason to care. But they did." He paused. "I've spent my whole life trying to pay that debt forward." Emma didn't know what to say, so she just nodded. "Okay," she said quietly. "Tell me what to do." By morning, Emma's house looked like a fortress. Jackson had spent the night installing motion sensors, reinforcing locks, positioning cameras at every entrance. Titan patrolled the perimeter while Buddy stayed close to Emma, his presence a constant comfort. Martha had taken the news surprisingly well. At 78, she'd lived through enough to know that trouble came in waves, and all you could do was hold on until it passed. "That young man," she said to Emma over breakfast, nodding toward Jackson, who was checking the cameras on his phone. "He's got good bones." "Grandma, I'm just saying, you could do worse." "He's not. We're not. He's just helping us." Martha's eyes twinkled. "If you say so, dear." Jackson came in from outside, Titan at his heels. "The perimeter's secure. I've got alerts set up on my phone. If anyone comes within 50 feet of this house, I'll know." "Thank you," Emma said, "for everything." "Don't thank me yet. This is just defense. We still need to go on offense." "What does that mean?" "It means we need to make them react instead of us. Right now, they control the timeline. They decide when to threaten, when to attack. We need to flip that." "How?" Jackson pulled out his phone and showed her a news article. "Preston Blackwell is hosting a charity gala tonight at his father's estate. 500 guests, press coverage, the whole circus. And I think it's time the guests learned what kind of man their host really is." Emma stared at him. "You want to crash the gala?" "Not crash. Expose." Jackson pulled up another image, the video from Preston's phone frozen on a frame of Victoria's heel, connecting with Emma's ribs. "This video is going to go viral by tonight. Every news outlet in the state will have it. Every guest at that gala will see it. How? Mike's handling the distribution. Anonymous leak untraceable. By the time Preston takes the stage to give his speech, the whole world will know what he did. Emma felt something stir in her chest. Something that felt like hope. And what do? We watch. Jackson smiled, but there was no warmth in it. We watch them burn. At 6 o'clock, Emma sat in Rosie's diner, her phone open to a news app. Jackson was beside her Titan and Buddy, lying together under the table like old friends. Rosie had closed early, putting a sign on the door that said, "Private event." A few loyal customers had stayed, people who had heard what happened and wanted to show their support. "It's starting," Jenny said, pointing at the TV above the counter. The local news anchor was speaking, her expression grave. Breaking news tonight as disturbing footage emerges showing Preston Blackwell, son of State Senator Harold Blackwell, allegedly assaulting a young woman at a local diner. We want to warn viewers that this video is graphic. The footage played. Victoria's screams, Preston's laughter, Emma curled on the floor protecting Buddy, and then the kicks. The diner went silent. Emma watched herself on screen, watched the moment her life had changed, and felt tears streaming down her face. "Oh, honey." Rosie wrapped an arm around her. "I'm so sorry you had to see that again." "No." Emma wiped her eyes. "No, it's okay. People need to see it. They need to know." The anchor continued. The video, which was recorded on Preston Blackwell's own phone, has gone viral in the past hour, amassing over 2 million views. Senator Blackwell has not yet issued a statement, but sources say the family is scrambling to respond. Jackson's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and smiled. "Mike says the FBI is moving. They're executing search warrants on Blackwell properties as we speak." Search warrants for what? Everything. Financial records, communication logs, property deeds. The assault video gave them probable cause. Now they're pulling the thread. Emma's heart was racing. So it's happening. They're actually going after him. They're going after all of them. The TV switched to a live feed from the Blackwell estate. Guests were streaming out of the mansion, confusion and outrage on their faces. News vans were parked at the gate, reporters shouting questions. And then the camera found Preston. He was standing on the steps, his face pale, his eyes wild. Victoria was beside him, mascara streaking down her cheeks. "This is a lie," Preston was shouting. "This is a setup. That video is fake." A reporter thrust a microphone toward him. "Mr. Blackwell, the video clearly shows your wife kicking a young woman. How do you explain that?" "I don't have to explain anything. Do you know who I am? Do you know who my father is?" "Your father is currently being questioned by the FBI, sir. Do you have a comment on that?" Preston's face went from pale to green. "What?" "Senator Blackwell was taken into custody approximately 30 minutes ago. Sources say he's being questioned about allegations of corruption, bribery, and obstruction of justice." Preston's mouth opened and closed. No words came out. Victoria grabbed his arm. "Preston, we need to go. Now." "Go where? Where are we supposed to go?" "I don't know. Anywhere but here." They fled toward their car cameras, following every step, reporters shouting questions they would never answer. In Rosie's diner, Emma watched it all unfold. "Is this real?" she whispered. "Is this actually happening?" "It's real," Jackson said. "And it's just the beginning." At 9 o'clock, Emma's phone rang. Unknown number. She looked at Jackson. He nodded. She answered. "Hello?" Heavy breathing on the other end. Then a voice she recognized. Preston Blackwell. "You think you've won," he hissed. "You think this is over. It's over for you. It's not over until I say it's over. You ruined my life. You destroyed my family. And you're going to pay for it. Is that a threat, Mr. Blackwell?" "It's a promise." The line went dead. Emma looked at Jackson. He called from his own phone. He's losing it. Good. People who lose control make mistakes. What if he comes after me? He won't get close. But what if... Emma. Jackson's hands gripped her shoulders. Look at me. She looked. I have faced Taliban fighters in mountain caves. I have cleared buildings filled with terrorists. I have hunted men who made Preston Blackwell look like a schoolyard bully. His voice was steady, certain. If he comes for you, he will regret it. That is not a threat. That is a fact. Emma believed him. At 11 o'clock, the FBI found Preston. He was hiding in a hunting cabin 2 hours outside of town Victoria with him. They'd been trying to destroy evidence, burning documents in the fireplace, smashing phones and laptops. But they weren't fast enough. Agents surrounded the cabin, megaphones blaring. Preston came out with his hands up, his designer clothes covered in ash, his face streaked with tears. Victoria came out screaming. Do you know who we are? Do you have any idea what you're doing? My father-in-law will destroy you, all of you. An agent calmly read her rights. Emma watched the arrest on TV. Buddy's head in her lap. Titan lying at Jackson's feet. It's over, she said softly. It's really over. This part is over, Jackson agreed. But there's still work to do. What do you mean? The trial. The testimony. You're going to have to face them in court, Emma. Tell your story to a judge and jury. Are you ready for that? Emma thought about everything that had happened. The attack, the threats, the brick through her window, the fear that had become her constant companion. And she thought about Jackson, about his strength, his certainty, his promise. I'm ready, she said. Whatever it takes. Jackson nodded. Good. Because this is where the real fight begins. At midnight, Emma stood on her front porch looking up at the stars. Buddy sat beside her, his warmth a comfort against the cool night air. The glass had been cleaned up, the window boarded temporarily. Tomorrow someone would come to replace it. Tomorrow life would start to return to normal. But Emma knew that normal would never mean the same thing again. She had been attacked, threatened, nearly broken. And she had survived. More than survived. She had fought back. Her phone buzzed. A text from Rosie. Heard the news. So proud of you, honey. See you tomorrow. Same time, same place. Emma smiled. Same time. Same place. Some things at least stayed the same. Jackson stepped out onto the porch, 2 cups of coffee in his hands. Thought you could use this. Thank you. They stood in silence for a moment, sipping coffee, watching the stars. What happens now? Emma asked. Now we rest. We prepare. And when the time comes, we tell the truth. And you, will you stay? Jackson was quiet for a long moment. For now, he said finally. Until I know you're safe. And after... He looked at her, and something flickered in his eyes. Something that might have been hope, or longing, or the ghost of a life he'd never allowed himself to imagine. Ask me again when this is over. Emma nodded, accepting the answer. She didn't know what the future held. She didn't know if Jackson would stay or go, if the Blackwells would find some way to wriggle free, if her grandmother's health would hold. But she knew one thing. She wasn't invisible anymore, and she would never let anyone make her feel that way again. In the distance, a dog howled. Buddy's ears perked up, and he tilted his head, listening. Titan did the same. And somewhere in the darkness, Emma could have sworn she heard an answering call. A pack recognizing its own. She smiled, scratched Buddy behind the ears, and went inside. Tomorrow would bring new battles. But tonight, for the first time in longer than she could remember, Emma Carter slept without fear. 3 weeks after the arrest, Emma walked into the Willow Creek courthouse with her head held high. She was wearing the nicest dress she owned, a simple navy blue that Martha had pressed 3 times to get the wrinkles out. Her hair was pulled back, her face scrubbed clean. No makeup. She wanted the jury to see exactly who she was. Just a waitress. Just a girl who protected her dog. Jackson walked beside her dressed in a dark suit that looked out of place on his weathered frame. Titan waited in the truck outside, watching through the window with patient eyes. "You ready?" Jackson asked as they approached the courtroom doors. "No." "That's the right answer. Anyone who says they're ready to testify is lying." He paused. "But you're going to do it anyway." "I have to." "No, you don't. You could walk away right now. No one would blame you." Emma looked at him. "Would you walk away?" Jackson's jaw tightened. "Never." "Then neither will I." The courtroom was packed. News cameras lined the back wall. Reporters filled the gallery. And at the defense table, surrounded by the most expensive lawyers money could buy, sat Preston and Victoria Blackwell. They looked different than Emma remembered. Smaller, paler. The arrogance that had radiated from them in the diner was gone, replaced by something desperate and cornered. Preston's eyes found Emma as she walked in. For a moment their gazes locked. Emma didn't look away. Neither did Preston. But something in his expression shifted. A flicker of fear, quickly suppressed. Good, Emma thought. Be afraid. The prosecutor, a sharp-eyed woman named Catherine Walsh, had prepared Emma for what to expect. The defense would try to discredit her. They would question her character, her motives, her memory. They would try to paint her as a liar, a gold digger, a fraud. "They're going to come after you hard," Walsh had warned. "Can you handle that?" "I've handled worse." And she had. She'd handled her mother's death when she was 12. She'd handled her father's abandonment when she was 15. She'd handled years of working double shifts, of scraping by, of watching her grandmother's health deteriorate while praying the medication would be enough. A rich lawyer asking pointed questions. That was nothing. The prosecution calls Emma Carter to the stand. Emma stood. Her legs were shaking, but her voice was steady as she took the oath and settled into the witness chair. Walsh approached with a kind smile. "Miss Carter, can you tell us in your own words what happened on the afternoon of September 15th? Emma took a breath, and she began to talk. She told them everything. The diner, the Blackwells' arrival, their complaints, their demands, their contempt. She told them about Buddy getting out of the back room, about Victoria's screaming, about the kicks that had left bruises on her ribs for weeks. And at any point during this assault, Walsh asked, "Did you fight back?" "No." "Did you threaten them?" "No." "Did you do anything to provoke their attack?" "No, I just held my dog. I tried to protect him." "Why?" Emma's voice cracked. "Because he's all I have. Him and my grandmother. And I wasn't going to let them hurt him. I wasn't going to let them take the only good thing in my life." The courtroom was silent. Walsh nodded slowly. No further questions. The lead defense attorney, a silver-haired man named Charles Whitmore, rose from his chair. His smile was smooth, practiced, designed to put witnesses at ease. Emma wasn't fooled. "Miss Carter," Whitmore began, "you work as a waitress at Rosie's Diner, correct?" "Yes." "And how much do you make per hour?" $7.25 plus tips." "Plus tips. And what's your annual income approximately?" Walsh stood. "Objection, relevance. Goes to motive, Your Honor." The judge nodded. "I'll allow it, but tread carefully, Mr. Whitmore." Whitmore smiled. "Miss Carter." Emma's chin lifted. "Around 22,000 a year. Sometimes less, depending on the season." 22,000. And you're aware that my clients are worth considerably more than that?" "I assumed so." "Did that bother you? Their wealth?" "No." "Really? A young woman struggling to make ends meet, watching wealthy patrons enjoy luxuries she could never afford. That didn't create any resentment?" "I've served hundreds of wealthy customers. Most of them tip well and say thank you. I don't resent anyone for having money." "But the Blackwells were different." "Yes. They were cruel." Whitmore's eyebrows rose. "Cruel? That's a strong word." It's an accurate word. Miss Carter, isn't it true that you allowed your dog into the dining area in violation of health codes? Buddy got out by accident. He pushed through the door. But he was your responsibility. Yes. So in a sense you created the situation that led to the confrontation. Emma felt her hands clench. My dog approached their table. That's not a situation. That's a dog being a dog. And when Mrs. Blackwell expressed her displeasure, she kicked me, multiple times, while I was on the ground, while I was protecting my dog from her. She was frightened. She has a documented fear of dogs. Then she should have asked me to remove him. Instead, she assaulted me. Is that what you call it? An assault? What would you call it, Mr. Whitmore? Whitmore paused, clearly not expecting the question to be turned back on him. I would call it an unfortunate overreaction to a stressful situation. An overreaction. Emma's voice was steady, but something cold had entered it. I have the medical records showing bruised ribs. I have a video showing your client kicking me while I was defenseless on the ground. I have threatening text messages and a brick through my window. Is all of that an overreaction? We're not here to discuss. No, you're here to make me look like a liar. To make me look like I'm after their money. To make me look like I deserved what they did to me. Emma leaned forward. But I have the truth, Mr. Whitmore. I have video evidence. And no matter how many fancy words you use, you can't change what happened. The courtroom rippled with murmurs. The judge banged her gavel. Order. Whitmore's smile had frozen. No further questions. Emma stepped down from the stand, her heart pounding. Jackson caught her eye from the gallery and nodded once. You did good. She had done good. But she knew the battle wasn't over. The defense called their witnesses, character witnesses who testified to the Blackwells' generosity, their charity work, their sterling reputation. Experts who questioned the authenticity of the video. Doctors who suggested Emma's injuries could have been self-inflicted. Through it all, Emma sat rigid, her hands clenched in her lap. Lies. All of it lies. But the jury was watching, listening, and she couldn't tell what they were thinking. On the fourth day of the trial, the prosecution called its surprise witness. The people called Jackson Cole to the stand. A murmur swept through the courtroom. The defense lawyers exchanged worried glances. Even the judge looked surprised. Jackson walked to the stand, his stride unhurried, his expression unreadable. He took the oath and settled into the chair, his eyes sweeping the courtroom with the same calm assessment Emma had seen that first day in the diner. Mr. Cole, Walsh began. Can you state your occupation for the record? I'm retired. Retired from what? United States Navy. I served for 15 years in the Special Warfare Development Group. A ripple went through the jury. One of them, an older man with a military haircut, sat up straighter. For those unfamiliar, Walsh continued, what exactly is the Special Warfare Development Group? It's commonly known as SEAL Team 6, ma'am. We conducted counter-terrorism operations in high-risk environments around the world. And what was your rank when you retired? Senior Chief Petty Officer. Walsh nodded. Mr. Cole, can you describe what you witnessed on September 15th at Rosie's Diner? Jackson's voice was calm, measured, utterly credible. I was having coffee in a corner booth when the Blackwells arrived. I observed their behavior from the moment they walked in. The complaints, the condescension, the way they treated Miss Carter, like she was beneath notice. When the dog approached their table, I saw Mrs. Blackwell begin kicking Miss Carter while she was on the ground defenseless, trying to protect her animal. And what did you do? I intervened. I confronted Mr. Blackwell and secured his phone, which contained video evidence of the assault. I then assisted Miss Carter and ensured she was safe. Did you use excessive force? No, ma'am. I used the minimum force necessary to end the threat. Whitmore jumped up. Objection. Mr. Cole is not on trial here. Overruled. The judge's voice was sharp. The witness is providing context. Continue, Ms. Walsh. Walsh turned back to Jackson. In your professional assessment, Mr. Cole, was Miss Carter's response to the attack reasonable? More than reasonable. She could have fought back. She could have let the dog defend her. German shepherds are protective by nature. But instead she chose to shield the animal with her own body, absorbing multiple kicks to prevent escalation. Jackson's eyes found Emma's. That's not the action of someone looking for trouble. That's the action of someone willing to sacrifice themselves to protect an innocent. The jury was riveted. Whitmore rose for cross-examination, his face tight with barely contained frustration. Mr. Cole, you said you're retired. Is it true you're currently unemployed? I'm between positions. And during your time in Willow Creek, have you developed a personal relationship with Miss Carter? I've developed a friendship. A friendship. And would you say this friendship might affect your testimony? Jackson's expression didn't change. Mr. Whitmore, I've testified in military tribunals, congressional hearings, and classified briefings that you don't have the clearance to know about. In every case, I've told the truth, the whole truth, because that's what I do. But I watched your clients assault a defenseless woman. I watched them laugh while they did it. I watched them threaten to destroy her life for daring to exist in their presence. Jackson's voice hardened. I've seen evil, Mr. Whitmore. Real evil. The kind that operates in shadows and thinks it's untouchable. Your clients aren't evil. They're just bullies who never faced consequences. Until now. Whitmore opened his mouth to respond. Nothing came out. No further questions, he said finally. Jackson stepped down. As he walked past the defense table, Preston Blackwell looked up at him. Jackson stopped. You should have walked away that day, Jackson said quietly, low enough that only Preston could hear. You should have said sorry and driven off, but you didn't. And now everything you built is coming down around your ears. He leaned closer. How does it feel? Preston said nothing. His eyes said everything. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Emma spent the time in a small room with Jackson, Rosie, and her grandmother, who had insisted on coming despite her fragile health. Whatever happens, Martha said, holding Emma's hand. I'm proud of you. So proud. What if they don't believe me? Then we appeal. We fight. We keep going. Martha's grip tightened. That's what we do, Emma. We keep going. Jackson sat in the corner, silent, watchful. Titan lay at his feet, and Buddy lay at Emma's. The dog seemed to sense the tension. Neither of them moved. At 4:47 p.m., the bailiff came to the door. They've reached a verdict. Emma's heart stopped. She walked back into the courtroom on legs that felt like water. The gallery was packed. The cameras were rolling. The world was watching. She took her seat. The jury filed in. 12 faces, 12 unreadable expressions. The judge turned to the foreman, an older woman with silver hair and kind eyes. Has the jury reached a verdict? We have your honor. On the count of assault in the second degree against Preston Blackwell, how do you find? Emma held her breath. Guilty. A gasp swept through the courtroom. On the count of assault in the second degree against Victoria Blackwell. Guilty. On the count of criminal threatening. Guilty. On the count of witness intimidation. Guilty. On the count of conspiracy to obstruct justice. Guilty. Every count. Every charge. Guilty on all counts. Emma's vision blurred with tears. Preston Blackwell slumped in his chair, his face gray. Victoria was sobbing, mascara streaming down her cheeks. Their expensive lawyers looked like they'd been punched. The judge banged her gavel. Sentencing will be scheduled for next month. The defendants are remanded to custody pending that hearing. Court is adjourned. Chaos erupted. Reporters shouted questions. Cameras flashed. Victoria screamed as officers moved to handcuff her. This isn't over. Do you hear me? This isn't over. But it was. It was over. Emma felt arms around her, Rosie crying, Martha laughing through her tears, and Jackson standing back watching, a rare smile on his weathered face. You did it. he said. "We did it." "No." His voice was firm. You stood up, you told the truth, you faced them down, and you won." Emma wiped her eyes. "I couldn't have done it without you." "You could have. You would have found a way." Jackson's eyes softened. "That's who you are, Emma. A fighter. Even when you don't know it." Outside the courthouse, a crowd had gathered. Not reporters. Regular people. Citizens of Willow Creek who had watched the trial, who had heard Emma's story, who had come to show their support. They cheered when she walked out. Emma stood on the courthouse steps, blinking in the sunlight, overwhelmed by the faces, the voices, the outpouring of love from strangers who had become allies. A little girl broke free from her mother and ran up to Emma holding out a hand-drawn picture. It showed a girl with brown hair holding a dog standing next to a figure in a cape. "That's you," the girl said, pointing. "You're a superhero." Emma knelt down, her throat tight. "I'm not a superhero, sweetheart." "Yes, you are. My mommy said you stood up to the bad guys. That's what superheroes do." Emma hugged the little girl, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you so much." The girl's mother collected her, mouthing, "Thank you," to Emma. And Emma realized, standing there in the sunlight surrounded by people who believed in her, that she had become something she never expected to be. Not a victim, not a waitress. A symbol. A reminder that ordinary people could stand against injustice, that the powerful weren't untouchable, that the truth still mattered. She looked at Jackson, who was watching from the edge of the crowd, Titan sitting patiently at his side. He nodded once, and Emma knew whatever came next, she would face it. Not alone. Never alone again. 1 month after the verdict, Willow Creek felt like a different town. The sentencing had come down hard. Preston Blackwell received 5 years in state prison. Victoria got 3. Their appeals were denied before they even began. The evidence was too overwhelming, the public outrage too fierce. Senator Harold Blackwell resigned in disgrace. The FBI investigation had uncovered decades of corruption, bribery, money laundering, witness tampering, obstruction of justice. He faced federal charges that would likely keep him in prison for the rest of his life. The empire had fallen, and Emma Carter was still standing. She stood behind the counter at Rosie's Diner, wiping glasses, watching the morning crowd filter in. The place was busier than ever now. People came from 3 counties over just to eat at that diner. The one they'd seen on the news, the one where justice had started. "Order up," Rosie called from the kitchen, her voice as warm as ever. Emma grabbed the plates and headed toward table 7. The family sitting there smiled as she approached the father, reaching out to shake her hand before she could set down the food. "You're her, aren't you, Emma Carter?" Emma nodded, uncomfortable with the attention even now. "I just wanted to say thank you," the man said. "My daughter was bullied at school for months. She was afraid to speak up. But after she saw your story, she told her teacher everything. They caught the kids who were hurting her." Emma felt her throat tighten. "I'm glad she's okay." "She's more than okay. She's brave now, because of you." Emma delivered the food and retreated to the counter, blinking back tears. This happened every day now. Strangers approaching her with stories. Parents whose children had found courage. Workers who had reported abusive bosses. Victims who had finally pressed charges against their attackers. She had become something she never asked to be. A symbol. "You okay, honey?" Rosie appeared beside her, concern in her eyes. "Yeah, just overwhelmed." "Good overwhelmed or bad overwhelmed?" Emma thought about it. "Good, I think. Mostly." "That's all we can ask for." Rosie squeezed her arm. "Now get back to work. Table 12's been waiting." Emma laughed and grabbed her notepad. Some things at least stayed the same. At noon, the bell above the door chimed. Emma looked up. Jackson Cole walked in, Titan padding beside him. Her heart did something complicated in her chest. She hadn't seen him in 2 weeks. After the sentencing, he'd said he needed to take care of some things. Personal business, he'd called it. He'd promised to come back, but part of her had wondered if he would. "Hey," she said, unable to keep the smile off her face. "Hey yourself." He settled into his usual booth, Titan immediately lying down under the table. Coffee, black. You remembered. Hard to forget. She brought him his coffee, then hesitated. "Mind if I sit? I'm due for a break." "Please." She slid into the booth across from him, suddenly nervous. "Where did you go?" she asked. "Virginia. Had to close out some things at my old base. Sign some papers. Say some goodbyes." "Goodbyes." Jackson's eyes met hers. "I've been on the move for 3 years, Emma, since I got out. Couldn't stay in one place. Couldn't let myself get attached." He paused. "That's changing." Emma's pulse quickened. "What do you mean?" "I mean I found a place I want to stay." "Where?" He looked at her. Just looked at her. Emma felt heat rise to her cheeks. "Oh," she whispered. "If that's okay with you." She didn't know what to say. Didn't know how to process this. "Jackson, I'm just a waitress. I live in a tiny house with my grandmother and my dog. I don't have anything to offer." "You have everything to offer." His voice was quiet but firm. Courage, kindness, integrity, the willingness to sacrifice yourself for someone you love. He reached across the table and took her hand. "I've traveled the world, Emma. I've been to places most people can't pronounce. And I've never met anyone like you." Emma's vision blurred. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Of what?" "Of being happy. Of letting myself hope." She wiped her eyes. "Every time I've hoped for something, it's been taken away." "I know." Jackson's grip tightened. "But that's not going to happen this time." "How do you know?" He smiled. It was a real smile, the kind she'd only seen glimpses of before. "Because I'm not going anywhere. And neither are you." Emma laughed through her tears. "That's not how life works." "Maybe not, but it's how we work. You and me." He paused. "If you want it." Emma looked at him. At this man who had appeared in her life like a guardian angel, who had stood between her and danger, who had fought for her when no one else would. "I want it," she said softly. "I want it so much." Jackson lifted her hand and pressed his lips to her knuckles. "Then that's enough. For now. That's enough." At 3 o'clock, Emma got a call from the courthouse. The settlement had been finalized. She stared at the number on the page, unable to believe what she was seeing. $350,000? She whispered. Jackson, sitting across from her at Martha's kitchen table, nodded. Civil damages. The Blackwell family agreed to pay rather than face another public trial. "I never asked for money." "No. You asked for justice. The money is just a consequence." Emma looked at her grandmother, who was sitting in her rocking chair, tears streaming down her weathered cheeks. "Grandma, are you okay?" "I'm more than okay, sweetheart." Martha's voice trembled. "Do you know what this means? Your mother's medical bills, the house repairs, your future." "Our future." Martha shook her head. "No, Emma, your future. I want you to use this money to build a life, a real life, not just surviving, living." Emma knelt beside her grandmother's chair, taking her hands. "I'm not leaving you." "I know you're not. I'm not asking you to." Martha smiled through her tears. "But I want you to dream again. I want you to think about what you want, not just what you need." Emma thought about it. What did she want? She looked around the small kitchen at the peeling wallpaper and the leaky faucet and the stove that only worked on 3 burners. And she thought about Rosie's diner. "I want to buy the diner," she said suddenly. Jackson's eyebrows rose. "Buy it?" "Rosie's been talking about retiring for years. She loves that place, but it's too much for her. What if I bought it, kept it going, made it something even better. That's a big commitment. I know, but it's where everything started. It's where I met you. It's where I learned that I could stand up for myself. Emma's voice strengthened. I want to turn it into a place where everyone is welcome, where no one gets treated like they're invisible, where people like me, people who are struggling, can find a hot meal and a kind word. Martha was beaming. That sounds beautiful, sweetheart. Jackson nodded slowly. It sounds like you. Emma laughed. Is that good or bad? It's perfect. A week later, Emma signed the papers. Rosie cried so hard she had to sit down. You're not getting rid of me, you know, Rosie said, dabbing her eyes with her apron. I'll still be here. Someone has to teach you the secret recipe for the apple pie. I wouldn't have it any other way. They hugged two women from different generations bound together by a place that meant more than its cracked vinyl booths and temperamental jukebox. What are you going to call it? Rosie asked. Emma thought about it. Carter's Kitchen, she said finally. But with a subtitle. What subtitle? Emma smiled. Where Everyone Belongs. Rosie started crying again. The renovation took 3 months. Jackson did most of the work himself with help from local volunteers who wanted to be part of the story. The whole town seemed to rally around the project, donating time, materials, expertise. The jukebox got fixed. The booths got reupholstered. A new sign went up outside, hand-painted by a local artist, Carter's Kitchen, where everyone belongs. And in the corner a special booth was reserved. A plaque on the table read, in honor of those who protect the innocent. This booth is always free for veterans, first responders, and their four-legged partners. Opening day was chaos. The line stretched around the block. News crews came from across the state. The governor sent a letter of congratulations. Local celebrities posted selfies from the booths. But Emma barely noticed any of it. She was in the kitchen cooking alongside Rosie, learning the rhythms of a place she now owned. At noon, Jackson appeared at the pass-through window. There's someone here to see you. I'm swamped. Trust me. You want to see this. Emma wiped her hands on her apron and followed him out. Standing in the middle of the dining room was a group of people she didn't recognize. 15, maybe 20 of them. Men and women of different ages, different backgrounds, different walks of life. But they all had one thing in common. They were holding signs. Emma Carter inspired my daughter to speak up. Because of Emma, I reported my abuser. Emma gave me courage. Thank you for standing up. You are not invisible. Emma's hand flew to her mouth. What is this? One of them stepped forward. A woman in her 30s with kind eyes and a trembling smile. We're the people you helped. Not directly, maybe. But your story, what you did, it changed us. It gave us permission to fight back. I didn't do anything special. Yes, you did. The woman's voice cracked. You showed us that one person can make a difference, that standing up matters even when you're scared, even when the odds are against you. Emma was crying now. She couldn't help it. The woman opened her arms, and Emma stepped into the hug. One by one, the others joined. A massive group embrace in the middle of the restaurant, strangers becoming family, united by a moment of courage in a small-town diner. That evening, after the last customer left and the doors were locked, Emma sat on the front steps of Carter's Kitchen. Buddy lay beside her, his head in her lap. Jackson sat on her other side, Titan at his feet. Hell of a day, Jackson said. Hell of a year. Regrets. Emma thought about it, really thought about it. No, she said finally. Not one. Not even the bruises, the threats, the brick through your window, especially not those. Emma scratched Buddy's ears. They led me here, to this place, to these people, to you. Jackson was quiet for a moment. I have something for you. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. Emma's heart stopped. Jackson, it's not what you think. He smiled. Not yet, anyway. He opened the box. Inside was a pendant. Silver shaped like a shield with two dogs engraved on the surface. One large, one smaller. Titan and Buddy. For protection, Jackson said. To remind you that you're never alone. Emma lifted the pendant, watching it catch the light. It's beautiful. You're beautiful. She looked at him, at this man who had changed her life, who had shown her what it meant to be protected, to be valued, to be seen. I love you, she said. The words came out before she could stop them, before she could be afraid. Jackson's eyes softened. I love you too, Emma. I have since the moment I saw you curl up on that floor and take every hit to protect your dog. That's a weird thing to fall in love with. No, it isn't. It's the truest thing in the world. He leaned in and kissed her. Soft, gentle, full of promise. Buddy barked once as if approving. Titan's tail wagged. And Emma Carter, who had once been invisible, who had once been afraid, who had once believed she was worthless, felt something she had never felt before. Complete. 6 months later, a battered pickup truck pulled up outside Carter's kitchen. Jackson stepped out, stretching his legs. He'd been gone for a week, helping a veterans organization in Texas. Emma had missed him terribly, but she understood. He had work to do, people to help. That was who he was. She ran out the front door and threw her arms around him. You're back. I couldn't stay away. He held her tight. Missed you too much. I missed you more. Not possible. They walked inside together, hand in hand, greeted by the smells of coffee and bacon and apple pie. Rosie waved from the kitchen. Martha sat in her favorite booth playing checkers with old Mr. Patterson. Buddy and Titan trotted over, tails wagging, demanding attention. Everything was exactly as it should be. Jackson. He turned. Yeah. Do you remember what you asked me that first night after you saved me from those men? I asked if you were okay. No, after that. You asked me what I wanted. Jackson nodded slowly. I remember. I didn't know how to answer then. I'd spent so long just surviving that I forgot what it was like to want things. And now? Emma looked around the restaurant, at the customers enjoying their meals, at the staff who had become family, at the dogs lying contentedly under the corner booth, at the man standing beside her. Now I have everything I ever wanted, she said. And more. Jackson smiled. So do I. He kissed her forehead, gentle and sure. Outside, the sun was setting over Willow Creek. Inside Carter's kitchen, life went on. A waitress became a warrior. A soldier found a home, and a story that began with cruelty ended with love. Because that's how it works. The darkness comes, but the light comes after. Always. And Emma Carter, who had once protected her dog from a rich woman's heel, now protected something far greater. Hope. For herself. For her town. For everyone who had ever been told they were invisible. She wasn't invisible anymore. None of them were. And they never would be again. The end. But not really. Because stories like this don't end. They echo. They inspire. They remind us that ordinary people can do extraordinary things. All it takes is the courage to stand up, to protect what we love, to refuse to be invisible. Emma did it. So can you. So can all of us. And somewhere on a quiet road in America, a battered pickup truck rolls on. A German shepherd rides shotgun. A soldier drives toward the next town, the next story, the next person who needs help. Because there's always someone who needs help, and there's always someone willing to give it. That's the promise. That's the truth. That's America.